USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
On WhatsApp, no one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password. To WhatsApp, it's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming password in the family chat or trading those late-night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else. Not even us. WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao, a new kind of flavor sparkling water. The kind made with real fruit juice, a pinch of Sicilian salt, and the sparkle of the Italian sun. With no added sugar and just 10 or less calories per can, enjoy. With love, from Italy. By San Pellegrino Ciao now.
This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
The Premier League returns in less than 6 weeks, and that means it's time to start thinking about that all-important draft night. So buckle up, because today we're talking top picks, underrated punts, and hard avoids. Hello, and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about draft FPL. I'm Dom Crofts, I hope you are well, and as the start of the season edges ever closer and more signings join Premier League clubs all over the country, it is time for draft managers to start thinking about which players they should be targeting for their teams. And that is why today is the first of 2 special episodes where we're going to go through each top flight club and give you a top pick, an underrated punt to consider, and a player who you might be tempted by but who you need to avoid at all costs. Before we get going, I just want to ask everybody who is listening to this show to do us a massive favour and leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. The more positive reviews we have on places like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the more findable we will be to other draft managers. And that will not only help us in terms of listenership and reach, but it will also make us feel really good about ourselves. So please do take the time to do that if you can. It's literally a 30-second job, and you can do it while you're on the train to work, while you're walking the dog, or even while you're doom scrolling on the toilet. And if you don't already, please make sure you subscribe to the pod as well, so you never miss an episode. A few headlines from the Prem since our last episode. Florian Wirtz has now completed his move to Liverpool for a lot of money, £116 million. João Pedro has joined Chelsea from Brighton for £60 million. And Arsenal have signed Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad. Brentford have also appointed Keith Andrews as their new manager. He replaces Thomas Frank, who is now the manager of Spurs. Right, let's talk players. The good, the potentially good, and the goddamn ugly. Over the next couple of episodes, we are going to make our way through 20 teams. We're going to discuss 60 players, and we're going to be firing a few stats your way to help justify our decisions. And we're going to be starting with AFC Bournemouth, who have lost quite a few players already this summer, with Kepa, Dean Howson, and Milos Kerkez all having left the South Coast club. But crucially, they have held on to their main man, their manager, Andoni Iraola, who has had such a huge impact on the Cherries since replacing Gary O'Neill. Bournemouth finished last season in 9th place. They matched their best ever top-flight finish. They set new club records for most points gained, most wins, and most goals scored. They beat Arsenal twice. They beat Newcastle, and they beat Manchester City. And at one point, they went on an 11-game unbeaten run. So there should be some good draft options coming out of the Vitality, and there are. Justin Kluivert and Antoine Semenyo both had strong seasons last year. Kluivert ended the campaign with 12 goals and 6 assists, although he did overperform his XGI by 2, and half of those goals were from the penalty spot, so it's unlikely he'll match that tally again this season. Semenyo actually ended the season as Bournemouth's top point scorer with 11 goals and 7 assists for him, but neither of them are my top pick for the new season. That honour goes to Cherries striker Evan Nielsen, who ended his first season in England with 10 goals and 5 assists from 2,317 minutes, which works out to around 25 games. So based on last season, you can expect him to get an attacking return every 1.7 matches. He also got more bonus points than any other Bournemouth player by quite some distance, and he had an injury that ruled him out for 7 game weeks halfway through the season, plus he missed the first game week of the season because he hadn't signed for the club in time for the start of the campaign. So 15 returns from 30 games. Now, more often than not, players moving to the Premier League from abroad take a season to acclimatise, and then their performance really goes to another level the following season. So if that's the case, you could be looking at a 15 to 20 goal return from Evan Nielsen this time around. The Cherries do have a pretty tough start to the season, maybe the toughest you could possibly want when they go to the champions Liverpool at Anfield on the opening night. But I think that long term, Evan Nielsen will be head and shoulders above his teammates this season. I do think he'll go to another level, and I would expect him to be one of the top 8 highest point scoring forwards in the game come the end of the season. Next up is our punt, and we're going for Adrian Truffert, who is Bournemouth's new left-back signing. He got 4 goals and 2 assists playing for Rennes last season. In total, he played 191 times for the French club. He scored 9 goals. He got 23 assists. He is very attack-minded, and crucially, he is also very versatile. 2 of his goals last season came from playing at left-back, where he made 12 of his appearances, but he actually played 19 other games at left wing, where he got a goal and 2 assists. So he will be a very good replacement for Milos Kerkez, and while it's unlikely he will be quite as prolific in his first season as the Hungarian was in his last season at Bournemouth, I do think he's got every chance of having a strong first campaign in the Premier League. And then we've got to come up with a player to avoid, and we're going to go with Ryan Christie, who will play week in, week out. He was the Bournemouth Supporters Player of the Season last year. He did have an excellent season for the club, but from an FPL perspective, he does not offer anywhere near enough to be considered an option. He got 2 goals and 3 assists last season. He finished the campaign with 76 points, and I am afraid that is not going to be anywhere near enough for your draft team. So Christie is our avoid at all costs. On to Arsenal, who will be hoping to go one better than the second place they achieved last season, and the second place they achieved the season before that, and the second place they achieved the season before that. And central to their hopes will be our standout pick from the Gunners. It is, of course, Starboy Bukayo Saka. Saka missed 3 months of last season with an injury, but he still managed to get 25 goal contributions in the Premier League. He managed a career-high 2.29 successful dribbles per 90 last year. He had more touches in the opposition box per 90 and more shots from inside the area per 90 than ever before. And despite missing a third of the season with that hamstring injury, he still created the most big chances per 90 minutes, not just at Arsenal, not just in the Premier League, but across Europe's top 5 leagues, with 1.14 big chances created per 90 in the Prem. So if he can stay fit this season, there is every chance Saka will go to another level again. And given the business that his club are doing this summer and the attacking options they may well have to complement his talents, with Rodrigo, Eze and Gyökeres all linked, I think this will be Saka's best season yet. So he is the obvious first pick from Arsenal. A punt from the Gunners is Martin Odegaard. He had a disappointing campaign last year. He got just 3 goals and 9 assists. He was the 8th highest scoring Arsenal player last year, which is just not good enough. And Gunners fans have been questioning whether their captain can rediscover his best form. But I think he can, and I think he will. And I think that because of the midfield that is being built around him. Last year, Odegaard was having to drop deep to collect the ball and try to get his side going. And then when he did get the ball, Saka wasn't around for 3 months of the season. Havertz wasn't around for 3 months of the season. Martinelli had injury problems as well. So the runners and the quality ahead of him just wasn't there. And he wasn't able to get himself into the sort of positions to do damage himself because he was coming at the team from too deep a position. But next season, Martin Zubimendi will be at the base of Arsenal's midfield, and the Spanish international is a player capable of breaking the lines with his passing. He is a player who can create from deep. He made the 4th most progressive passes in the whole of La Liga last season. He also made the 4th most forward passes, the 4th most successful long passes as well. And that will allow Odegaard to take a position further up the field, closer to goal, closer to his forwards. And he has shown since joining Arsenal that when he gets in those positions, he does have the quality to make a huge impact in that final third. He got 8 goals and 11 assists in the 2023-2024 season. He got 15 goals and 8 assists the season before that. And in both of those campaigns, he was Arsenal's player of the season. So given the signing of Zubimendi and the likelihood that he is going to have more attacking options to combine with, I am expecting a massive season from Martin Odegaard this season. And I think he's going to make a lot of Arsenal fans who have doubted him look very silly indeed. So he is our punt from the Gunners. And then our player to avoid from Arsenal is indeed Martin Zubimendi. I actually think he will have a hugely positive impact on the club, and he could well be Arsenal's missing piece of the jigsaw as they seek to go one better this year. But just like Ryan Christie, he is not the sort of player you should be targeting as a draft manager. He is a deep-lying midfielder. Yes, he scored recently for Spain in the Nations League final, but that is not something you can expect to see very often. He ended last season in Spain with 2 goals and 2 assists for Real Sociedad. He managed just 10 goals for the club in 236 matches. So while he could be key to Odegaard's return to form and Arsenal's hopes of winning a title, he is not a player to look at when it comes to shaping your FPL draft squad. Okay, on to Aston Villa, and there are a couple of strong options for their top pick, with Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rogers the obvious standouts. Rogers could go to another level again this season after a brilliant campaign last year where he made his England debut and got 19 attacking returns in the Premier League. But I still think Ollie Watkins is the one to go for here. He's seen off the challenge of John Duran for his starting place. Marcus Rashford's loan has ended. And despite having what many considered was a disappointing season last year, he still ended up with 16 goals and 8 assists. So 24 attacking returns. He was comfortably Villa's top point scoring player. He has managed 84 attacking returns in his last 3 Premier League seasons with 50 goals and 34 assists. And those returns have come in what works out to around 99 games worth of minutes. So 84 returns in 99 games. He has shown over a long period that he will get you a return roughly every 1.1 game he plays. And that is fantasy gold. He will have a point to prove this year. Villa will once again be one of the better teams in the division. And I think he is the man to target first when you're looking at Villa assets. Our punt for Villa is Ian Maatsen, who arrived last summer with a lot of expectation on his shoulders. The season before he signed for Villa, he'd played in a Champions League final for Dortmund. He'd got 4 attacking returns in his 16 games for the German club. He had a long-running battle last year with Lucas Digne for the left-back slot, but he ended the campaign in really good form. He was selected in 6 of the final 8 games ahead of Digne, and in that time he got a goal and an assist as well. So I do fancy him to kick on this year. I think he will be first choice left back for Villa, and I think he may also be another one of those great attack-minded fullback options that every good draft side should have in their squad. As for the one to avoid from Villa, I like him as a player, but I'm afraid I'm going for Jacob Ramsey. He is clearly supremely talented. He's a player Unai Emery clearly likes, but he's just too injury cursed to be trusted. He missed 9 league matches last season. In another 8, he managed less than 30 minutes, and I suspect he'll have even more competition for his position this year than last year. So he's Villa's trap player for the 2025-2026 season. On to Brentford, where there has already been quite a lot of churn this summer. They've lost their manager, they've lost their captain, they seem almost certain to lose their talisman, Brian Mbeumo, as well. And they've placed their faith in Keith Andrews to lead them into this new era, despite the fact that he has never been a manager before. So it could be a difficult season for the Bees, but one player who could be a strong signing for them and for your draft team is Caoimhín Kelleher, who has joined the club from Liverpool in a deal worth around £18 million. Kelleher replaces Mark Flecken, who was joined by Leverkusen, and the Irishman was excellent for Liverpool last season when he came into the side for the injured Alisson. He played around 900 minutes for the champions, which works out at exactly 9 games, and in that time he picked up 45 points. So he was averaging 4.5 points per appearance for the Reds last season, which made him the highest points per game scoring goalkeeper in FPL of any keeper who played 5 matches or more. He is joining a club who love to give up chances, which means he could be the perfect goalkeeping pickup, a keeper who is a good shot stopper and playing in a team who force him to showcase that skill set on a regular basis. In fact, to put Brentford's leakiness into perspective, no goalkeeper was forced into making more saves last season than Brentford's Mark Flecken. Flecken had to make 153 saves over the course of the campaign, and the second busiest keeper, Aaron Ramsdale, only had to make 125. So Flecken had to make an extra 28 saves more than the goalkeeper playing in the worst team in the league. And that means that Kelleher should be one of the top keepers on your radar when you're planning your draft priorities. Our Brentford punt for the season is Thiago, who the club actually signed as Ivan Toney's replacement last summer, but who was unavailable for pretty much the whole campaign after picking up a bad injury in pre-season. He managed just 1 start in his first season in England, but he was involved in each of Brentford's final 4 games of the campaign, coming off the bench on each occasion, and with a full pre-season under his belt, he will be hoping to return to the sort of form that convinced Brentford to spend £30 million on him. He is a Brazilian striker who in the previous 2 seasons before moving to Brentford had a record of a goal every 2 games he played, and UEFA also named him the Europa Conference League Player of the Year in 2024 after he scored 5 goals in 10 matches for Club Brugge. So if he can prove his fitness and he can make that step up from the Belgian League to the Premier League, he could become an integral part of a new-look Brentford side in 2025, and he could become even more important if, as expected, Bryan Mbeumo does move on. And one player from this new-look side that is being created at Brentford is sadly our one to avoid, and that is Anthony Milambo, who they have signed for €20 million. He's an attacking midfielder who was joined from Feyenoord. He got 7 goals and 8 assists in 42 games last season, and Keith Andrews, his new manager, had this to say about him. I love the way that Anthony takes the ball and drives. He has the ability to go past players, and he's a goal threat. He will complement the midfielders we have in the building. So he sounds like he could be a lot of fun to watch. But what puts me off is the Eredivisie tax that tends to come with players who swap the Netherlands for England, particularly attacking players. A few names to throw out there who have made that move in recent years. Anthony, who left Ajax for Manchester United. Mohamed Kudus, who swapped Ajax for West Ham. Cody Gakpo, who joined Liverpool from PSV. Noni Madueke, who joined Chelsea from PSV. And then if you go even further back than that, there's the likes of Hakim Ziyech at Chelsea, Donny van der Beek at Manchester United, Memphis Depay at United, Steven Bergwijn at Spurs, Sebastian Haller at West Ham, and Davy Klaassen at Everton, and there are many, many more on top of that. Now, of the names that we mentioned there, you could argue that Cody Gakpo has been a success, although it should be said that last season was really his first breakout season at Liverpool, and that was his 3rd season at the club. Kudus and Madueke may go on to make a proper impact in the Premier League, but they certainly haven't yet, and I think the rest can all be classified as flops, and that is the problem with Milambo. He could be great, but history suggests that he won't be, particularly in his first season, and that's why I will not be rolling the dice on him come draft night. Let's move on to Brighton and Hove Albion, where Karu Matoma is the obvious standout pick, although in truth, there really isn't that obvious a player to pick in any of the early rounds from the Seagulls right now. Mitoma ended last season with 10 goals and 5 assists, which is actually a better return than I thought he got. He did finish as Brighton's top point scorer as well, and of all their midfield options, and there are a lot, he is the one who seems certain to start most weeks. He also got 10 goals and 5 assists the season before last, so if you do get him, the evidence is there to suggest that he will get you around 15 attacking returns, which is good for a mid-round pick. A punt from Brighton is the little seen and often forgotten Ferdi Kadioglu, who arrived with a lot of fanfare last year but only managed 6 games before he got a season-ending injury. He is an attack-minded fullback who can also play in midfield, and who Fabian Hertzler actually used in midfield before he got that injury. He scored 18 goals and got 22 assists in his time at his previous club, Fenerbahce, and in his final season in Turkey, he averaged a key pass every 66.8 minutes and an attempt on goal every 100.8 minutes. So if he can get back to full fitness, and if he is still classified as a defender, he could be a very clever pickup because he could be playing out of position and he could be a real threat in that final third. In 385 minutes last year, he did manage a goal as well against the champions, no less. So I'm sure he will want to push on this season and justify the price tag that was spent on him. As for who to avoid from Brighton, it pains me to say it, but I think it's time to wave goodbye to Pervis Estupiñán as a viable FPL option. Last season he played just under 2,500 minutes, which is a solid amount, and yet he managed just 1 goal and 1 assist. He finished with an XGI of 3.5, so he underperformed as well, and it does seem that the days of him being this super attacking threat are well behind him. I'm so sorry, Pervis.
When you wanna grow your list size, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot. And when you gotta boost your revenue, pop up like it's hot, hey, pop up like it's hot, pop up like it's hot. Pick your favorite template, you can tailor to your brand. They're MailChimp-erific, you're gonna be a fan. MailChimp your marketing with our new customizable pop-ups.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at Polestar.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Next up are newly promoted Burnley, and the first thing to say here is that there are some teams you are simply not going to look at on draft night, and Burnley are one of those teams. In recent years, newly promoted teams have not done well at all, and I fully expect the 3 teams that came up from the Championship last season to go back down again this season. But this episode is literally called Pick, Punt, and Avoid. So we have to pick a couple of players from every side in the top flight who we think are worth investing in, even if it's Burnley. So our top pick from the Clarets is last season's top scorer Josh Brownhill, who ended the campaign with 18 goals and 6 assists. Now, at the time of recording, he is actually out of contract, so he could be leaving the club. He's been linked with the MLS, he's been linked with West Ham United, but if he does stay, and I think Scott Parker is very keen for him to sign a new deal, he will be hoping to transfer some of that attacking form he showed in the Championship into the top flight. Now, does he have a track record of doing that? No, he doesn't. 12 attacking returns in 111 Premier League games. Does he have a track record of even doing it consistently in the lower leagues? No, he doesn't. 40 goals and 19 assists in 351 games before last season's heroics. Is he even going to be at Burnley this season? Maybe not. But is he the player I'm choosing as my pick because it's Burnley and I don't know who else to suggest? Abso-bloody-lutely. A punt from Burnley could be Marcus Edwards, who has joined the club on a permanent deal from Sporting Lisbon after a spell on loan at the back end of last season. He started his career at Spurs, where a lot of people expected him to go on to become this absolute superstar, but it didn't happen for him. Now he's rocked up at Turf Moor. He only managed 1 goal and 1 assist in the 14 games he appeared in last season, but the general consensus from Burnley fans is that his presence in their side made a huge difference to the way they performed in that second half of the season. He has got a track record of playing well in European club competition. He's been linked with much bigger clubs in the past. And one thing that you can say for him is that he will get a lot of space in the Premier League because most of the teams Burnley will be playing will be going all out attack to try to break them down. So he will get space and he will get the chance to show what he can do. He got 50 attacking returns in 120 matches at Sporting, and he is my punt from the Clarets. And one to avoid, and it's actually more than one, it's an entire unit, and that is Burnley's defensive unit. Scott Parker's side were incredible defensively last season in the Championship. They conceded just 16 goals, and maybe some people will look at that and think that they can show similar defensive qualities in the Premier League. But I'm telling you right now, they can't and they won't. They will concede a lot of goals, they will finish in the bottom three, and you are better off taking a punt on one of their midfielders or one of their attackers than any of their defensive assets. The only player I would make an exception for is James Trafford, their goalkeeper, because he, like Aaron Ramsdale last season, will inevitably be very busy and will have to make a lot of saves. And what does saves mean? Points. But the bad news for Burnley is that, like Josh Brownhill, James Trafford could also leave the club, with Newcastle keen to snap him up. Oh dear. Let's talk Chelsea Football Club, who are still competing in last season's competitions this season, if that makes any sense. They're into the final of the Club World Cup, which I'm sure we're all watching and enjoying. Their top pick is, of course, Cole Palmer, who ended last season with 15 goals and 10 assists. The second half of his season was nowhere near as good as the first half, but he will be a first-round draft pick in almost every draft league on the planet. He may also be playing alongside two absolute terriers in Liam Delap and João Pedro, who will do a lot of chasing and harrying and running, and that should afford Palmer space and time to work his magic. Estevão Willian was going to be our punt from Chelsea. He is the young Brazilian that they signed, who was wanted pretty much by every big club on the planet. But I'm actually going to go, not with Willian, but with Enzo Fernandez as my punt, partly because Willian is a teenager moving to a new country and having to settle into a totally new way of life, partly because where he plays, Chelsea have about 3,000 other alternatives to him, but also because Enzo Fernandez went slightly under the radar for his performances last season. He actually ended the campaign having created the fourth most chances in the Premier League of all players. He also got 6 goals and 8 assists, and he finished as Chelsea's second highest point scorer. Enzo Maresca loves him. He's basically the second name on the team sheet right now, and he's having a very good Club World Cup as well, having scored 1 goal and got 3 assists in 6 games. And even though you might think of him as a more defensive-minded player, incapable of having a consistent impact in the final third, he has actually got a pretty good record at every club he's been at. Before Chelsea, he was at Benfica, where he got 11 attacking returns in 29 games. Before that, he was at River Plate, where he got 22 attacking returns in 53 games. So he has done it before. He will do it again. He seems settled in London now, and he is a player who I think would be a pretty good fifth midfield option from a team you would expect to be challenging for a top 4 place. As for the avoid, I'm going to go with Jamie Gittens, who is Chelsea's new signing from Dortmund. He is another winger. He got 12 goals and 5 assists in 49 games for them last season. But overall, he only managed 23 attacking returns for Dortmund in 76 games. And like Estevão Willian, he is going to have to face a huge amount of competition for a first-team place. Cole Palmer can play on the left, Willian can play on the left, so can Neto and Nkunku, João Pedro, Tyreek George, Madueke if he stays. Delap can play on the wing as well. There are just too many options for Chelsea to warrant his signing in draft. And when you throw in the Bundesliga tax as well, which is not too different to the Eredivisie tax, I'm afraid Jamie Gittens is just not going to be in my thoughts for draft night 2025. On to Crystal Palace, the FA Cup winners from last season, and the top pick from Oliver Glasner's side has to be Jean-Philippe Mateta. There is an argument for Eberechi Eze, there is an argument for Daniel Munoz, but given the lack of striker options every season in draft, if you can get your hands on a prolific goalscorer in one of those crucial early rounds, you absolutely have to do it. And Mateta is a prolific goalscorer. He scored 14 goals and got 2 assists last season. He has 30 goals over the course of his last 2 Premier League campaigns. And taking his entire Premier League career into consideration, he is a 1 goal in 3 striker. But he has stepped up in those last 2 seasons with the stability at Palace and the arrival of Glasner really helping him. His goal ratio over the last 2 seasons is now roughly 1 goal every 1.8 games. So a massive improvement, and I would expect more of the same next season. There are no standout punts for Palace right now. They've only made 1 signing at the time of recording, and we'll talk about him in a minute. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here and go for Daniel Munoz, who you could definitely argue is not a punt anymore. But he is a player who took a while to get going last season and who you would hope will kick into gear a lot quicker this time around. I actually got him in on draft night last season, but after an assist on the opening day, he didn't get another attacking return until game week 10, and 6 of his 10 attacking returns came in the final 16 game weeks of the season. So owners did have to be very patient with him. Palace also only got 3 clean sheets in the opening 20 game weeks last year, so managers and Munoz were not even getting that out of him. He did end up as the league's 5th highest point scoring defender though, and if Palace can get off to a better start this season, when they had to wait until game week 9 for their first win, then Munoz could obliterate his points total this time around, and maybe even top the defender charts in 2025-2026. And then the player to avoid for Palace is their new goalkeeper signing, Walter Benitez, who arrives on a free transfer from PSV Eindhoven. Benitez is an Argentina international. He's very highly regarded. He will be doing everything in his power to earn that number 1 jersey from Dean Henderson. But it's going to be a very tough challenge for him. And to be totally honest, if there is any doubt over who is going to be Palace's number 1, and I think there probably is, I would avoid both. Henderson had a strong end to last season. He was obviously a key figure in that FA Cup win. But it does make you wonder why they have brought in someone of Benitez's stature if they are completely convinced by Henderson. And unless you're going to double up on Palace keepers and commit to that for the whole season, then I would absolutely avoid Benitez, and I would be a little bit reluctant to go for Henderson as well. On to Everton, who had a real resurgence under David Moyes last season and who will be playing in their brand spanking new stadium, the Hill Dickinson Stadium, next season. Last season's top performer for the Toffees was Jordan Pickford, who managed to keep an impressive 12 clean sheets over the course of the season, one behind David Raya and Matt Seltz, who shared the Golden Glove. Pickford also kept 13 clean sheets the season before last, but how much of that consistent defensive stability is down to Sean Dyche, and how much was achieved under David Moyes? Well, Dyche left Everton on the 9th of January, by which time Everton had kept 7 clean sheets in 20 games. Moyes managed 5 clean sheets in 18 games. So maybe not quite as secure, but there's really not that much in it. And that is why I would still put Pickford as my top pick for Everton, ahead of the likes of Dwight McNeil. Everton play Leeds, Brighton, Wolves and West Ham in their first 6 matches, which are not the toughest fixtures and do present the possibility of a few clean sheets. Pickford was also the 2nd highest bonus point scorer at the club last year, behind Ilian and Dye, and he also registered 3rd as the busiest keeper in terms of saves. So he will get you a solid return in terms of points if you pick him as your number 1. A punt for Everton is a player who has not officially signed for the club, but who looks almost certain to do so, and that is Tierno Barry, who is a striker from Villarreal. Everton have finally dispensed with the services of Dominic Calvert-Lewin this summer, and it does look like Barry is the man that they're going to replace him with. He got 11 goals and 4 assists in the Liga last season, having got 20 goals in 42 games for his former club, FC Basel. He is 6'4". He is a dual winner. He is a unit, and that screams David Moyes striker. And if he does join, he will almost certainly be first choice from the outset, given the fee Everton are likely going to have to pay, which is around £30 million. A word of warning on Barry, though, is that David Moyes does not always get the most out of the strikers he has brought in the past. A few case studies for you. Gianluca Scamacca, Danny Ings, Jordan Hugill, Nikola Jelavic. There have been some absolute stinkers under Moyes, and outside of Michail Antonio, it is hard to think of a forward he has brought the best out of since the good old days of the Yak Yakubu. So Barry could be a clever draft pick, but he is definitely not a sure thing, and that is why he is a punt. And then we come to the one to avoid, and we are going for Charlie Alcaraz, who is one of those players who is technically assured, capable of making a really positive impact when he gets a chance, but I'm just not sure he's a David Moyes style player in the long run. He's very much the anti-Tierno Barry. He ended up starting 3 of the final 4 games of last season, and he did get 2 assists and a goal in those games. But when I think of a Moyes midfielder, I think about a hard-working dog of war, and I just think that in the long term, he will not settle for Alcaraz as a first-team option. I think he'll be a rotation pick at best. Right, next up is Fulham, which is actually the final team we're going to be looking at for this episode. Marco Silva's side had a good season last year. They finished in 11th place, and for a long period, it looked like they were going to finish even higher. Their star man last time out was Alex Iwobi, who got more points per game than any other player in their side, and he topped the overall points charts for the Cottagers. In our draft league, he was very much one of those players who was on and off the waivers most weeks, but I'm not so sure he should have been. He finished the campaign with 9 goals and 6 assists, which ranked him as the 11th highest point-scoring midfielder in the entire game, ahead of the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, Eberici Eze, Karu Mitoma, Brennan Johnson, and Heung-min Son. So he is, or was, an undervalued and underappreciated midfield asset. He is not a fashionable name. Some would argue that having had spells at Everton and now at Fulham, he is turning into a bit of a journeyman footballer. But he is a solid pick as a 5th midfielder and should be on your radar come draft night. So that is why he is our top pick from Fulham. Our punt is Anthony Robinson, who was on our radar last year and was someone else I drafted into my team on draft night. He ended last season with 10 assists and 0 goals, but that came from an XGI of just 4.9. Owning him, it did feel a bit like he wasn't quite delivering as much as I'd hoped. And looking at his expected goal involvement, that may explain why. But I think also part of that disappointment was because Fulham didn't really excel defensively last season. Robinson kept just 5 clean sheets compared to 9 the season before and 9 the season before that. And it was that lack of a defensive return that saw Robinson lead the way in the assist charts across all defenders, but still end up down in 24th place in terms of overall points from defenders. However, what makes me think he is worth a punt again this year is Fulham's underlying defensive numbers, because they actually underperformed their XGC by some distance last year, and only Liverpool and Arsenal had better underlying defensive numbers than Fulham. So if they can find that defensive sweet spot, keep a few more clean sheets, and still give Robinson the freedom to go upfield and make a difference in the final third, then he may be a good signing for your team on draft night. And then in terms of one to avoid from Fulham, we're going for Emile Smith-Rowe, who is undoubtedly a fantastic footballer. He arrived at Fulham with very high expectations, but his return of just 6 goals and 3 assists was not quite what owners in draft were hoping for. He did exceed both his XG and his XA with that tally as well, so it may well reverse to the mean this season, which would have been more like 4 goals and 2 assists. That's just not good enough, as I'm sure you're aware. He did manage over 2,000 minutes, so you can't really blame injuries for that slightly underwhelming return. And to be honest, I think if he hadn't arrived with quite so much fanfare, if he hadn't arrived from a club like Arsenal, I think many people would have ditched him before they did. He was in everyone's thoughts at the start of last season. I'm not sure he'll be in many people's thoughts at the start of this season. So those are our top picks, those are our punts, and those are our players to avoid for the first 10 teams in the Premier League next season. As it stands, of course, new signings could mean new picks, new punts, new players to avoid, but right now those are our top picks, our punts, and our players to avoid, and we will be back soon with a look at the remaining 10 teams. But in the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us and let us know who you'll be targeting on draft night and who you think might be a bit of a hidden gem, do not hesitate to get in touch with us on social media. We are at FPL Draft Zone on X and on Instagram. We lurk in the shadows of FPL Draft Reddit forums, and we're on Blue Sky as well. But that is it for this week. We will be back very soon indeed. And until next time, it is bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.